部屋を明るくしてテレビから離れてみてくれよ。
Hello, Orion Ghia here. This particular episode of AARGH, we've cut it into more digestible chunks. You can find the previous part right behind this in our uploads, unless you've already listened to it. In that case, welcome back. Let's get back into it, shall we? My optics! Before we get onto the toy line, let's just talk briefly about the other media, like the Dreamwave Comic. Did you read that?
I did. At the time, when I looked back at the issues that I've got, I like the comic a lot more.
Yeah. It's more grown up, isn't it, I guess?
Yeah, no, I like the comic book. Its whole setup for the series, how, first of all, they still have their Armada looks.
Mm-hmm.
They get reformatted after battling the 4 horsemen who are the 4 Transmetal Beast Wars characters.
Yep.
And kind of just Prime gets proper beaten up fighting those guys. And then Primus is like, don't worry guys, I'll help you fight back, and gives them new bodies.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just, a lot of the stuff that's in that, I feel would have helped this show a lot more. Just that starting point, the bit to leap off from, just run with their long series, it would have helped.
Yeah, well, but sadly Simon Furman was not writing the TV show, he was writing the comic. And so, yeah, that didn't happen. But yeah, it's written by Simon Furman with art by some people who went on to do lots of stuff with IDW, like Guido Guidi and James Reyes and Alex Milne. And Marcelo Mattia, I think his name is, who did a lot of the box art at the time.
Okay.
But yeah, and it was like a continuation of Armada.
It was really good. I mean, I even liked how they didn't have the Terracons as armies. They were just guys, just the 4 different type of creatures, and it kind of made them more intimidating.
They had characters. They actually spoke, and
yeah, a lot more intimidating. It was very. I like a lot of the artwork. It was very much from the perspective of the humans, and they just looked massive, and it was really.
Yeah. There's a lot more human stuff in it, like that. You know, they have the Armada kids playing bigger roles, and Kicker as well, and yeah, there's a lot more interaction between the Transformers and like the governments of the world and so on. Sadly, it ended after 12 issues because Dreamwave shut down.
Yep.
I think Simon Furman released details of what issues 31 to 36 would have in it, because there was going to be, because basically they did like 19 issues. Well, like 18 issues of Armada, and then they were going to do another 18 issues of Energon, but they only managed 12. And then obviously they would then move on to Cybertron. But obviously, Dreamwave went into bankruptcy and died. So it all ended. But according...
That would...
Go on.
Oh,
no.
I was going to say, it would be really interesting, because the connections they made from Armada to Energon made so much sense. I wonder what they would have done for the connection between Energon and Cybertron.
Yeah.
To link those two together better.
Well, we'll get onto that when we do Cybertron. Because Takara did not intend Cybertron to be connected to Energon in any way. Anyway.
You can tell.
So, I found something quite interesting online the other day. According to TF Wiki, on the TF Wiki page about the Transformers Energon Dreamwave comic, I quote, In a 2023 podcast interview, Furman said the early end of Energon was one of the biggest regrets about Dreamwave because nobody was as focused on Energon as they were on the G1 titles. He and Milne were left alone. We just had a blast, running with everything. And what podcast was that?
I don't know.
God, Jesus Christ. It's our podcast, you idiot!
Oh, right.
I don't know why I bother. Yes, it was episode 25 of AARGH My Optics. Let's jog yours and Dave's memory and run a clip, shall we?
We were running, myself and Alex Milne, on Energon with a real energy and freedom because it was Energon. Or nobody really, again, was focusing on it like they were the G1 stuff. So we were just having a blast taking that show and turning it into a pretty sort of, again, Gods and Monsters style epic storyline with, you know, Unicron, Alpha Quintessence, we were just really enjoying that comic. And you could see Alex's art coming on leaps and bounds, issue by issue. So again, just the shame that we got to issue 30 and never got to the end of Energon, which would have then, if everything had continued on, transitioned into Transformers Cybertron comic.
Yeah.
So, it's a disappointing thing in as much as I hate leaving things unfinished. I hate that people don't get the end of stories. And occasionally I've bought script packs to conventions of the scripts that were never published for that. So, that's the biggest regret of Dreamwave.
Wow. We're on TF Wiki.
Yes, that's right. We've hit it. We're on TF Wiki. I was expecting you to know what that was.
I thought you were talking about...
Do you listen to our podcast?
I thought you listened at the time.
I know you weren't there. So yeah, we've been deemed worthy of a credit on TF Wiki, which is nice.
Wow.
Sadly, they do misspell AARGH My Optics with one too many A's. Just in case you're listening, guys, maybe edit that. Maybe fix that. So before we move on to toys, let's finish with the fiction, sort of. Are you aware of Transformers Supercross?
No.
Well, you see, it's a good job I do my research, isn't it? So, Transformers Supercross, it was what Energon was originally going to be.
Okay.
This was the abandoned concept for the Armada sequel. It was set 3 to 4 years after the events of Armada. Unicron is searching for all sparks, the purest, most powerful sparks, by kidnapping Transformers from across space and time and forcing them to fight inside his body. Long-term exposure to Unicron's essence caused his captives to mutate, so changing them probably so they could do different toys. The Autobots and Decepticons got new bodies and are able to combine. The Minicons evolve into Omnicons and Terracons. I'm not sure if the Terracons were there, but definitely Omnicons. And Megatron wants to harness Unicron's spark, which he does do, and he mutates into something monstrous, apparently. And there'll be reunion with the Earth Kids as well. They're in it, and both sides use Allspark knowledge to summon allies from across the multiverse, which would have included Grimlock, Soundwave, Cheetah, Rat Trap, and Team Bullet Train.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, you'd never heard of this. But yes, this was abandoned, but this was the original concept. Aaron Archer said that it was ditched due to the overly complicated plot.
Oh.
And problems with trademarking some of the names.
Okay.
As well.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
The Supercross, because that's a motorsport. So it'd be difficult trademarking Supercross. A lot of this stuff, a lot of this kind of idea was used later in the Transformers Universe line, because the blurbs on the back of the toys were all about how Unicron was abducting Transformers from across space and time and using them to have a battle with, like he'd take people and make them baddies, and the Universe comic kind of picks up on this kind of stuff. So there you were not aware of this, see? So there you go.
No, that's news to me. Sounds like a cool concept, though. On paper.
But yeah, would have been interesting.
Especially bringing back Team Bullet Train. That would have been cool.
Yeah. Well, that's what you want to see happen in Legacy, isn't it? Which, again, in a way, the Legacy line's kind of like Supercross.
Yeah.
Bringing back characters from across different periods.
Just without the show to back it up with something tight altogether.
My optics!
All right, well, without further ado, let's talk about the toys.
Woohoo!
So, what was your experience with the toys?
Not too dissimilar from Armada. I remember going into Woolworths, Argos, those type of places, and picking up the deluxes and begging my parents for some extra money for the bigger guys, like Optimus Prime. I don't think I ever got Megatron. I got that weird 2-pack with like a deluxe Prime and like an ultra size Megatron. It was quite nice. Having Prime be able to combine with the other deluxes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had quite a few of them. Although I think over time, unlike my Armada toys, I felt some of them were they didn't hold up child's play, as it were. Bits fall off, and translucent plastic didn't hold up as long as it could have.
I mean, I was an adult, so I didn't have that problem. I thought the toys were vastly superior to Armada. In terms of like articulation, the way they looked, the fact that the gimmicks, more so with the Decepticons than the Autobots, but the fact that the gimmicks didn't really interfere with the look of the toy as much as it did in Armada.
Yeah, no, I can agree with that. I mean, a lot of them were quite well articulated, and even their weird extra joints they had to become legs or arms kind of helped them do cooler things. Yeah, I thought it was a very good toy line, and I had quite a few of the Autobots. I didn't hardly have any of the Decepticons. I think I had Tidal Wave, but not Mirage, and because even the Armada reissue people got new decos, and I think I had some of them, but not their reformatted counterparts.
Well, I mean, I was the other way. I had far more Decepticons than I had Autobots, because I thought the Decepticons were better looking toys, because they didn't have that combining gimmick. They weren't hampered by it. You know what I mean? They didn't have to kind of turn into a pair of legs or a body that fits on top of it.
They had the Decepticons they look better because they use translucent plastics in a different way than the Autobots did. The Autobots normally have translucent plastic for their guns and weapons and whatever, but the Decepticons, it was like part of Starscream's wing or Megatron's gun turrets, or like it was just integrated into them a lot better, and it made them look cooler. Yeah,
they did. They had translucent parts, which, yeah, you're right, the Autobots didn't have as much of, if at all. Yeah. I mean, I was, like, as I mentioned before, neck deep in the online community, and I picked up some of the Superlink stuff quite early on, and then that became what I wanted, so I would just buy the Japanese versions, which were a little bit better, and they weren't that much more expensive, really, because the trouble with, and it still is a case now, really, the price of a basic in America was $9.99 or whatever, or something like that. Maybe it was $7.99, whatever. Hasbro's conversion rate to pounds was 1-to-1. So if you were buying a basic here, you were paying £7 or £10 or whatever it was, and they were paying in dollars. And at the time this happened, dollars were worth 50p. $1 was worth 50p.
Oh, wow.
So they're getting it for half price, essentially, what we were paying. So if you ordered them from Japan, they weren't that much more expensive. So you may as well, because they had better decos. I liked the box art better. I liked the fact that the boxes didn't have windows. For the bigger ones, anyway. Obviously, the ones that were on cards had windows, but the big boxes didn't have windows generally. Some of them did later on, but not all of them did. I mean, I used to order from Action HQ, which was like based in London, which was a kind of like a precursor to places like Kapow and In Demand, that kind of thing. And then I had my friend Elias Models, who was had a shop in an indoor market in Sutton in Ashfield, and I used to drive down there and get stuff off him. I did that all the way through to Cybertron as well. I got all the Terracom variants, like all the crazy Japanese ones. I didn't really care about the Omnicons or the Combiners. Didn't get any of them because I thought they looked shit. I mean, I got one or two. I got RC, and I think I had Strong Arm. But like, I didn't really get lots of Omnicons, and I didn't like the Combiners at all. I thought they looked lame.
I thought the Combiners looked. I mean, I liked the Superior one the most, but I could never complete a team.
Really?
I had just had bits and bobs of all of them. I never found all the pieces to complete one.
Yeah. I remember them being in the shops, and I probably could have done, but I'm sure I had one or two, but I didn't have them for very long. I think I got them and thought, I'm not bothered about these, and sold them. I really loved Scorponok, or Mega Zarak, which is the one I had. Laserwave, I thought he was great, and Starscream, or Night Scream. They were great. I had the Microman Kicker, who was much nicer than the Hasbro G.I. Joe body one.
Right.
Although he was very, very fragile. Because he's made out of really kind of hard plastic that broke easily. I mean, luckily mine didn't break, but I could tell it could, you know. The belt kept popping off because it just kind of clipped on.
Oh.
You could take some of the armour off. It was interchangeable with other Microman figures.
Oh, right.
I had Grand Convoy, who was very silly, with his stupid big fat body and his very Megazord-y kind of look. But it was a pretty fun toy. Lots of different combinations you could do with him. He had a good kind of play pattern, and if you got Wing Saber, which I did, or a Mega Supreme, which I also got, you could combine him with them. It was nice. And I liked all the kind of greebly technology detailing and like transparent parts that were on them, because that's kind of new and interesting. I mean, everything does it now, but like at the time, it was new and interesting. They were much more detailed looking toys than the Armada ones.
Yes, yeah, they were, and it definitely, like you were saying about maybe the gimmicks in Armada, was a bit more of a hindrance to the toy. Here, it felt like because the play pattern was so varied, if you didn't like Pants Autobots, you could just focus on the Decepticons, or you could focus on the Combiners. You know, there was different things for you to dip your toes in if you weren't a fan of it, because you couldn't avoid it in Armada, because everyone did it.
Yeah. I don't think I did combine the Autobots, but I'd do it just out of interest, and then I'd not do it again. Because they look crap. Especially Prowl.
Oh, yeah.
He made the worst pair of legs. Just skinny, long, lanky weirdness.
That's another reason why I like that episode with in the arena or whatever, because him and Downshift combine together and they both become the head, and they're just like, well, hang on a minute. You're meant to be the pants.
So yeah, it was a good line. I mean, did you have any favourites?
I really liked Mega Supreme.
Yeah, he was cool.
You know, at that time, a very big robot. And obviously I liked what you could do with Optimus, but even the him on his own, without the Optimus bit, I thought it was really cool. I really liked Shockwave as well. I liked his tank/satellite mode that he had. And Landmine, I thought had a really cool vehicle mode. Yeah,
I never had Landmine, but he was interesting.
I thought he was quite decent. I liked his Battleize, brute mode, whatever gimmick, but he just looked cool, like on his own, like out of context of Transformers.
Yeah. I think my favourites were probably Mega Zarak, a Shock Blast or Laser Wave, and I really liked the Terracons. I thought they were all very cool. They were all a lot of fun, and the fact that that Japan went mad on different redecos of them was fun. So you could get a proper army together of different looking ones. So you were army building, but at least they were different, you know. Between the two lines, I think there were like 2 versions of Ravage, 2 versions of Dive Bomb or whatever he's called. 2 versions of Insecticon. 3 versions of Cruel Lock, Doom Lock, whatever. So yeah, there was plenty. You know, you could get quite a lot of them, which is fun. Also, do you remember the G1 Micromasters that were released under Energon branding?
I mean, I had the Devastator one and the Defensor one.
They're the only 2 they did.
Oh, I thought isn't there more? Is there like a...
No.
Or are they not under that banner?
No, they were under Cybertron.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I remember them being on the shelf, but I just never got those teams. Yeah, I had them. Pretty good.
It was one of the best Transformers bargains I ever got because they were in Tesco and they'd mispriced them.
Oh.
And they were like less than £1 each.
Oh, wow.
So I just picked up all 6 and went to the till, and they're like, they started scanning, and I went, no, it says on the shelf these are 75p or whatever it was. And they're like, oh, okay. And then they gave them to me for that price.
Wow.
So bargain. Because I think they were meant to be like £2.99 or something like that.
Yeah, I think they were like £3 at the time.
Yeah.
That sounds about right.
But yeah, I enjoyed the line. It had a lot of good stuff in it, and I had quite a lot of it. I did get the massive, because I had the Japanese Galvatron, which is smaller, because the Japanese line didn't release the massive Galvatron.
Oh.
Because the small one is more in scale. If you know what I mean, like
right.
It's more like the right size for the show.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, he gets massive at one point in the show, but generally he's small. Mega kind of size, isn't he? Like super, whatever you want to call that. Not leader class, but the one below, or maybe the one below that. But anyway, I had him, but I did get the giant purple one for a while, like from the Energon line, because he did get massive when he was purple. I did like Megatron's design, actually. I mean, it's very G1 Galvatron influenced. But yeah, it was pretty cool. It was weird that he had that tank. It was kind of like the Armada tank, like the, you know what I mean? But he just had it on his arm, and then in jet mode, he could sit on the jet. But it's like, why is it even there? What's the point of it exactly?
He wanted a different sword.
You could plug the sword into it, couldn't you?
Because he wanted a different type of sword, because everyone else was using his other sword, which.
Oh, but that's within the TV show. But I mean, why did they even design the toy that way? Right. Because they didn't do it with anyone else. Like, no one else had like a mini version of their former self kicking about.
And it was a thing, like, it was just like a staple for all of his toys, because even his McDonald's toy they all came with like a thing to activate a light in them, because they had like a cube of Energon inside them. And his one was his tank.
Yeah. And I had Unicron. I actually liked the deco on Unicron more than the G1-like deco.
Really?
Yeah, because he's all black and green, isn't he? Black and green, like neon green. I thought he looked more menacing and kind of crazy.
Yeah, they've got the, I don't know what you would call it, like Energon-infused veins running through him, and it does look pretty cool, yeah.
I think I kept that one longer than I kept the Armada one. But yeah, no, it was a good toy line. I liked it. It's a shame. Well, I mean, let's talk about the legacy, as it were, or the effect, what the success it had, and what its impact on the franchise was. I mean, it wasn't really a success, was it?
As far as I understand it, no. Like, it didn't do as well as Armada did in the whole reboot, as it were. It kind of the soy sales wasn't as successful.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Because I like I say, I like the toys more than Armada, but I just don't know. They just obviously didn't catch people's attention as much as Armada did, and the show was terrible, so that didn't help.
I mean, I guess it also didn't help that wasn't Transformers Universe also had like a toy line at this time, right? Wasn't there was like loads of repaints out of Armada toys on shelf at the same time as this? And I could understand as a kid.
Oh yeah, there was loads of choice. Like you had that, you had alternators was in full swing.
Yeah, like
G1 reissues. Like there was a lot of different choices.
I could understand why you would want to, if you were already buying Armada toys, to kind of keep buying toys like that instead of this whole other thing where the minicons are not even relevant anymore. So I can understand why that might have affected the sales at the time.
Yeah. Did they even have minicon ports on them? I don't know if they did they?
I think...
You don't know either.
Well, apart from... I was going to say does Omega Supreme, but I don't think he does.
I don't know if he does. He has a minicon for a head, sort of.
Yeah.
But I don't know if he has ports on him. Obviously, Unicron does because he's an Armada toy. And the same goes for any other kind of Armada repaint like Tidal Wave or whatever. But yeah, I don't think the toys did they? So they weren't really backwards compatible with minicons. I might be wrong.
Orion is spectacularly wrong. Virtually all of the new molds had minicon ports on them. None of them activated gimmicks, but you could trick out your Energon toys with minicon weapons and so on, as you pleased.
Does Megatron's hand tank have a port on it? There's only one other one I can think of.
Yeah, it might have. Yes, I think it did. Because there were some minicons in the line. There was the Star Saber.
I mean, Prime's design didn't really go down very well with people. He got that nickname, didn't he? From it.
Phathimus Prime.
Phathimus Prime.
Well, he was very bulbous.
He was.
Yeah, it wasn't the best looking Prime we'd seen. It was probably the worst looking Prime we'd seen for a while, to be honest. Even though I was never a massive fan of the Armada design, especially not the super mode, at least he looked more heroic. Unless you had him in, big mode, super mode. And even the super mode looked weird. It's like, since when has Optimus Prime had different coloured limbs? It was just strange. And it didn't make any sense in the context of the show either.
Not really.
Like, it was just like, oh, I do this. Why? I just do.
I mean,
I just have a little helicopter, a little submarine, and they make my limbs for some reason.
I mean, it did look better when he was attached with Wing Saber.
Yeah, because it was more
cohesive colour-wise. But yeah, it does feel very Megazord.
Yeah, it wasn't a success. Cybertron, which followed, kind of returned to the unifying one gimmick idea instead of like having various ones. Maybe people found the Energon gimmicks confusing or too varied and weird. They went to Cyberkeys, which I would argue is the lamest of them because it's just a little plastic disc that you push in a hole.
Oh, well.
You may as well have a button.
I mean, you telling me that you never got a Cyberkey and punched in that code on the back and went to the Transformers website to find out all about that character?
No, because I bought the Japanese ones which didn't have a code on the back.
You missed out.
No, I mean, I tell a lie. I did it. I must have done it at least once. But it was rubbish. We'll get to that when we do Cybertron, though.
It probably does come down to that because I remember as a kid, there was so much of the line to get, and there was like I was saying about the combiners, like a crucial thing of getting all of them. It was difficult. Like, I mean, I wasn't using the internet to pinpoint where stuff was going to be. I could just stumble into a shop and just find mostly deluxes, and that's what I got.
Yeah,
but I do remember the universe stuff. Like, there was a lot of that. Yeah, maybe it was just too much going on in the line.
Poor distribution
as well.
Which is, an age-old Hasbro problem. But yeah, no, I mean, yeah, maybe that's part of it. Maybe it was something to do with that. But yeah, I mean, despite having... I mean, again, so let's kind of talk about the legacy, because despite having a pretty cool toy line, it's still been largely overlooked and forgotten by Hasbro ever since, really.
Yeah. As it stands, at this point, there's not been any indication that they're going to be putting it in legacy in any shape or form so far. It doesn't seem like it's a part of the history they're tapping into at the moment. The only recent thing that has touched on that part of the franchise in a while has been the Fansobby stuff. With their new Prime.
Yeah, they're the only people doing it. Like, Hasbro in the Legacy line, they've... And also before the Legacy line, in... What was it? One of the War for Cybertron lines. I don't know which one. They've done Armada and Cybertron characters. They've done updates, in my opinion, down dates in some cases, like Siege. What is he called? Siege? No, what's he called?
Galaxy Prime. Yeah.
Galaxy Prime, which I think is inferior to the original toy.
Yeah, I would agree.
But yeah, they've done that, and they've just recently announced that they're doing Vector Prime.
Have they?
Yeah. Have you not seen this? Right, they're doing Vector Prime. They're doing Armada Galvatron, obviously a repaint of Megatron. But yeah, as yet they have done nothing with Energon. And like you say, all there really is the fan hobby stuff, and they've only just started. They've just done Prime. I think he's out.
Yeah, he's out.
And have they teased any more yet?
I mean, no. I mean, I guess the logical step would be Wing Saber, but they haven't yet. I guess they've gone back to doing Jetfire and Overload from Armada. So we're doing that first.
Yeah, they are doing them. But I mean, that makes sense as well. No, it's weird. Honestly, it's strange that they are not touching it at all, because as much as they might think, oh, no one liked the TV show, I think there's a lot of love for the toy line. I hope so anyway, because some of them were quite good.
I don't know. It's interesting because it is, like you're saying, it is the one that just gets left out of the trilogy when the opportunity to revisit it or do a redeco or redo a character. Is this? Yeah, maybe it did worse than we thought. Fans be like, well, no one likes this.
One thing that does feel a little bit like it's the influence of Energon creeping in is modular weapons that combine in various ways to make weapons. You know, like they did with the fossilizers and so on, and you know, you could pull things apart and make. And you've had transparent weapons coming with recent stuff.
I was about to say, in Legacy, they've actually got Energon weapons. Yeah.
So I mean, there's that. That's a little bit like maybe a little bit of Energon coming, but it is really like few and far between, isn't it? They really don't.
I think a Shattered Glass Megatron they did recently that has obviously in this.
That's
Shattered Glass one is like it's Energon Megatron more or less.
That's true. I'd forgotten him.
And you would think that would be an easy repaint, an easy generation select. We're just going to do that deco because we've already got the mold. Yeah,
no, that's true. They've got that. I suppose you had New Age do a version of that as well.
New Age too, yeah.
So I mean, again, that's Shattered Glass, not Energon, but it's obviously influenced by Energon. But yeah, it's weird because like you think, especially the way that Hasbro have been going recently, that's another strata of Transformers that they can mine, you know, and go, right, let's get in here. Fuck coming up with new ideas. Let's do these again. So yeah, I mean, I suppose at the moment they're too busy with the movie, but it's very odd that they're not touching it. But I reckon it's only a matter of time.
Yeah, when the anniversary rolls around, maybe
they'll keep going back to that nostalgia well and putting up buckets of old toys and going, oh, this one, we'll do this one then. One thing I did think while watching the TV show and doing research into the toy line is that this was probably the last time that Transformers was doing something new.
What do you mean? In what way?
Like not rehashing old stuff. I mean, okay, Unicron's in it, and there's obviously some parallels, but the storyline of Armada, Energon, Cybertron, it's different. It's not doing the same thing again, but everything since then, even animated to a certain extent, is drawing on G1 or drawing on previous stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's... Maybe it's that. Maybe that's the reason. Maybe they thought that because it didn't pay off in the way going back to the well of G1 does in the same sense. Like, they took a swing.
Well, I suppose Energon was doing that actually, wasn't it? Because they were bringing back G1 homages. Like, this is probably the first time in ages they've done that. Like, you have Downshift, who looks exactly like Wheeljack. You have the Combiners, which are very much based on the G1 Combiners. Megatron looks like G1 Galvatron. Like, even what?
I was going to say, they're even made to be like the Scramble City. Like, they can be arms and legs and interchangeable between all of them. Like, it's exactly the same type of play pattern.
Yeah. They brought RC back.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a bunch of characters that they kind of went, oh, let's just bring some back. Let's pepper in a bit of G1 here and see how it goes. Mm-hmm. Now, the line didn't do very well, but that is pretty much what they've done ever since. They did it with animated. They've done, and of course, War for Cybertron and Legacy is just a big, let's do that again. Let's do it all again.
My optics!
Anything more you want to say about Energon? There wasn't any computer games, were there?
No, not that I remember.
No,
there was.
Thank God we don't have to talk about them then.
There was. I'm sure there was plenty of those like mini clip, one button pressing computer games, but not like PC games. But none that I remember from the time. I was going to say, what do you think about like, apart from all of the weird story going around Energon, what do you think of the things they implemented about Energon itself in the show? Because, it's some of the things, like I said, are touched upon in Beast Wars, but this feels like it kind of explains Energon a bit more, and like what its effects on the Transformers, and how they can do things with it sometimes.
It's just an energy source, isn't it, really? Like, I don't know if they really expand on it any more than they did in previous versions, do they really?
Well,
apart from they can make weapons out of it.
And that, like, they can't, like I said, like, some of the things I touched on in Beast Wars, like, they can't touch the raw stuff, and it has to be refined for them to use it.
I don't know, it's just, it remains just a power source, doesn't it? And it's just it's what they run on, it's their fuel. There's always a fuel crisis on in Transformers, always. It's always about a lack of fuel and a lack of Energon. Like, constantly. And it's still the same in Energon. At least it's called Energon. But, like, it's just more so here, I guess.
Yeah.
I suppose what they do is they kind of make it so that it's like the lifeblood of all planets. Like, it keeps them alive.
Yeah. Which, when you start thinking about it that way in context of the show, it's like, why do you keep going back to Earth? Just go anywhere else while the Autobots are not. You can probably find some Energon there. Because there seems to be plenty of planets about.
Well, they did go to other places. They took all the Energon from Mars. They took all the Energon from the asteroid field.
Yeah, but why go to the places where the Autobots are? Because they're obviously not.
Well, because the Autobots just miraculously found some on the day that that Alpha Q was looking for some. Oh, we found some. It's like, well, what were you doing down there? Yeah, it's like the Autobots go, oh, we found Energon. I'm like, well, isn't that what your job is? Isn't that what you do?
Yeah, it's not really. Yeah.
Why is this suddenly now? It's super important.
It doesn't really ever feel like they run out of it either. Like in the way you would think energy would run and use that, you think turning on those towers would deplete the Energon.
Yep. I know, but those towers can do anything. There's that bit where Optimus Prime is inside Unicron, and he gets attacked by Shock Blast, and he loses all his limbs.
Oh, yeah.
And he's just kind of falling to pieces for some reason. And it's like, can't you just transform into your smaller mode?
Mm-hmm.
No. No, because there's not enough Energon. He's not got enough Energon. He needs more Energon.
Because he knew Wing Saber was coming.
That's convenient.
He knew.
Yeah, exactly. Wing Saber's on his way. So, yeah. But no, I don't know. I guess it tries. This is the thing. I think the show tries to do something interesting. It tries to kind of make Energon a more interesting thing, and tries to build a different world with, like, the idea that they're no longer at war and all that kind of stuff. But then it quickly just goes right into go get the thing, bring back the thing. We're fighting over the thing,
yeah.
which is every Transformers show.
Yes. I mean, I think looking at it on paper, it does introduce some interesting concepts and ways that we've not seen Transformers really up to that point. And it's so vastly just thrown out the window, and it's just, oh, well, the hope's gone. You know, it looked like it was going somewhere interesting.
Yeah.
But, oh well.
And it makes an interesting character out of the Quintesson, or Quintessons, in a way, that you didn't really have before. They were just these kind of space bastards in G1.
Oh, maybe.
But here, he's actually a sympathetic character. Like, Alpha Q is a sympathetic character. Like, you do feel for them. You do think, you know, you had your whole planet consumed, and all you want is to bring it back and to reverse it.
I mean, maybe that's how we were saying that there's not been any connection since, you know, in the main line or whatever. Maybe Rise of the Beast will have some more, because, like we're saying, it's just they're going to be going against the Terracons in this, and it very much seems like there's a lot of animal-type beasts, armies they're fighting, especially scorpions. So maybe there'll be something in that.
That's a good point, because as far as I understand it, the Terracons are minions of Unicron. So, yeah, that does link a little bit to the storyline of Energon, doesn't it? So
maybe. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, maybe.
You know.
We'll see.
Are you going to see it, though?
No, I'm not going to go see it. Why would I go and see it?
Don't worry, listeners. We'll get him to do a live-action show one day. I mean, film one day.
I mean, I've seen some. I've seen Bumblebee, but I mean, I'm not. Actually, my local Transformers group was saying, "Oh, should we go see the movie?" And I've said, "I will meet you afterwards."
My optics!
Congratulations, you got through it. However many hours of us wanging on about arguably one of the worst Transformers show and least loved toy lines, you may need to reevaluate your priorities in life, but we thank you for sticking with us regardless. What do you think of Transformers Energon? Is it a diamond in the rough, or does it belong in the trash? Why don't you let us know on social media? Search for us on all of them. It should be easy enough to find. You can find me in particular on Twitter and Instagram. I am at Ghia Orion and Orion_Ghia, respectively. Virtual Dave, what are your virtual hangouts?
You can always find me on Instagram at VirtualDave26 and also on Twitter, VirtualDave26.
Excellent. And do you want to say hello to one of your little MCM pals whilst you're here?
Oh, yes. Bumped into a couple of fellow newbies at TFN at MCM the other weekend, and yeah, it was nice to catch up with them and have a chat about the podcast, and they're saying that they listen. So, hey guys, thanks for listening. Thanks for.
It's nice to get some feedback.
Yes, and I'm glad that you guys are still keeping that badge on your bag as well.
Yeah, it makes it all worthwhile, doesn't it? So, I guess I'll see you in 12 months' time to talk about the last instalment of the trilogy, Transformers Cybertron, right?
Oh, I mean, I'll be there.
Can't wait for that. Oh. So, why have you talked me into this? Don't forget that if you enjoyed the podcast, you can let us know by liking, subscribing, sharing, reviewing. We really appreciate it. Thanks for listening, and please join us next time on AARGH!